Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofermento, and I'm all sorts of excited about today's episode because we've got not only an amazing guest who is a seasoned entrepreneur that's going to change your perspective on a lot of things, but we're also going to be talking about a topic that I think we as entrepreneurs need to put at the forefront of our considerations, and that is revenue and growth. And today's guest really combines his love for sustainability, not only in environmental terms, but in business terms, which is a really cool intersection. So let me tell you all about him. His name is Drew Cesario. Drew is a seasoned outdoorsman and backcountry enthusiast. And so he channeled his passion into both of those into founding his company, Botanical, marrying his personal values with his professional life. His journey through the consumer packaged goods world, from the wine industry in Manhattan to sales management in Hong Kong, has equipped him with the skills to create revenue systems. Yes, that's a word that I don't think every entrepreneur combines. Revenue systems that seamlessly integrate marketing and sales. Drew excels in guiding founders, helping them navigate and grow their mission-driven businesses with clarity and purpose, a bunch of things that all of us subscribe to when it comes to growing our own businesses. So we're going to learn a lot today. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Drew Cesario. All right, Drew, I'm so excited that you're here. Welcome to the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you for having me, Brian.
Heck yeah, super excited for so many different aspects of it. We're definitely going to be talking about revenue. I know that you're probably going to say the word sustainability a bunch of times here today, but first, fill in those gaps beyond the bio for us. I know that you've got an extensive professional career. Talk to us about what led you into all these awesome things that you get to work on today.
I took a job right out of college, working at an agency doing email marketing way back in the day. This is like 2007. So I got to learn really from some strong leaders then about like how to build marketing programs that work. I got to work on Target, National Geographic, and Circuit City, if I'm dating myself. And from there, I wanted to get out of the office, and I ended up working in the wine industry due to some family connections. My Uncle Lou and a lot of my family is now in the wine industry. And, I got to navigate consumer packaged goods from the wine and spirits industry across New York and Boston and California, and ended up managing a bit of a program of cannabis accessories out of Hong Kong, and went into the cannabis industry for a while. And so I've had this like kind of navigating ebb and flow across CPG. And I've been really lucky to have a lot of leaders and mentors that have taken the time and been patient with me as I've learned along the way. But I think that like kind of lands me here now around, what I'm doing to support consumer packaged goods businesses, stand out. I've been lucky enough to work with some monster global companies like Pernod Ricard and Bacardi, to startups. And as a result, I've gotten to understand really how and what it takes to build processes that are sales development and sales pipelines that are nourished through marketing and hands-on sales approaches that build sustainable sales and revenue. And so I'm here and now supporting people build that for themselves.
Yeah, I love that overview, Drew, for so many different reasons. But first of which is, obviously, I called it out in the intro to this episode, which is the marrying of those two words together. Revenue systems. Those are things that when we as entrepreneurs start our businesses, when businesses start growing, it's easy to focus on systems and processes for automation and delivery and fulfillment and onboarding and all those different areas. But somewhere where businesses might not feel that revenue or that can be systematized is revenue. Revenue is just a thing that we are relentlessly chasing. Talk to us about what that means. What are revenue systems? What do they even look like? Because it probably is the one element of business that a lot of people feel is out of their control, because revenue comes from sales, which is other people saying yes. How do you start breaking that process down?
Yeah, I think that you can look at it a lot of validated learning. I'm not reinventing any wheel. I'm stealing a lot of knowledge from the Eric Ries's of the world, with the lean startup, and looking at validated learning that can be done, not vanity metrics, and look at what is the feedback loop, what is the behavior that your customers are showing you based on what you're putting out into the world, both your sales approaches and your marketing approaches and your customer service. And so, from a CRO perspective, it really touches everything that really is that engine of the business. And yeah, a lot of automation is certainly built in there, using your CRM to do a lot of the communication, a lot of the tailored marketing approaches that you're having, whatever channels you may be touching. But there is a feedback loop, whether you recognize it or not. There is a pattern there that if you're putting yourself out there enough, that you'll be able to, and you've got enough data, you'll be able to kind of look through the tea leaves and start nourishing with the behavior that you want out of the consumer base that you're targeting.
Yeah, I'd love to go a little bit deeper into those feedback loops, because obviously data is a word that we hear so much in terms of business and marketing. What sort of data are we looking at? And most importantly, the question that I want to pose to you is, how do we take action from that data? Because ultimately, data is only as good as the actions and decisions that we make from it. So take us down that road, Drew.
Sure. So the feedback loops would be probably where you're I like to look at where people are initially already investing their time and attention. I don't like to really jump in and reconfigure businesses that I'm working with as clients. I want to see what do they have existingly that is working and what's not working. So for example, if they are a CPG business selling into brick and mortar and they have an outside sales team, let's look at the winners on that sales team, and let's look at the people who need some additional development. What are they doing differently? Their approaches, both maybe from a sales perspective and then also the accounts. Let's hear from them, maybe the distributor reps as well. But I think what's really interesting is that I think a lot of times people are afraid to just specifically ask questions. I think that I'm brought in a lot of times as to hold up a mirror and ask people within their team or people outside of their team that touch their business, really, what do they like about their business? What can be improved? And just being particularly curious about it. And then we'll look at certainly all the marketing data that they have. If they're doing a lot of cold email approaches, we'll be looking at that. Open rates, click-through rates, even certainly on the newsletter stuff. What is registering that it's giving the behavior that they want out of the customer base that they're focusing on? So I think that it depends on the business itself, of course, but that feedback loop is really there. I think that focusing on the customers and asking them survey questions, just sending out survey questions in particular. Have you ever heard of the mom test? I think it's called the mom test.
Yeah, it's funny. A guest maybe 6 months ago brought that up. I'd love for you to share more about it with us.
Yeah. I mean, it's essentially asking the questions that you want, but very indirectly. This is something that you can certainly leverage ChatGPT to do. But if you ask your mom, hey, is this a great business idea? Or you ask your friends, they're always going to be supportive. Maybe because they don't necessarily know, or they don't want to crush your dreams. And so you've got to ask questions in ways that people can be honest indirectly, right? So making sure that you're asking people, and whether internally or externally, questions that they are able to be and feel that they're able to be truly brutally honest with you. I think that getting that honest feedback is critical to understanding how to really approach growing your business. And I think, kind of going back to your earlier question, a lot of what I do initially is just kind of set the table, look at the feedback loops, organize them in a data fashion. Maybe it's setting up a CRM with a dashboard for my clients, or building a dashboard from scratch, so that they can understand the metrics that are the feedback loops. And then once they have that knowledge and they've asked the right surveys, then how can they go on the offense? But I think a lot of times, people end up, I think, hiring people such as myself, or they hire marketing agencies because they want to go on the offense, and yet they haven't kind of done the housekeeping internally to look at really what's really working, what's driving the business forward.
Yeah, Drew, it's funny. I always look for words that keep coming up in any and all business conversations. And with you already, here we are so early on in this episode here today. And already you've mentioned the word CRM quite a few times. And it's fun for me to hear that because I always argue that that's the most underutilized tool or the tool that's most missing in any business's processes. Because what's more important in our business's growth than, of course, revenue? And what is the hub of our revenue is our CRM. But Drew, I would argue that most people don't know how to, one, use a CRM correctly, or two, use it to actually grow. Because, I mean, CRMs are really the hub of all your ongoing sales conversations. Your follow-ups all stem from there. A lot of people drop the ball in follow-ups. Give us your perspective, since it's clearly so important when it comes to your approach. What is a CRM at a really high level, if listeners aren't aware of that? And then two, even deeper, leveraging your expertise and brilliance, how can we use a CRM to actually accelerate our growth?
Sure. So CRM, customer relationship management tool. You've probably heard of Salesforce or HubSpot. These are platforms that you can use that are enormously powerful to build and manage your business. And platforms like HubSpot, and there's a series of other alternatives that are out there, can be used to link every component of your business. And whether it's a wholesale business, whether it's a DTC business, whether it's coaching business, making sure that you're communicating in a uniform way with your customers and your prospects is enormously important. And so it can be an intimidating platform to build because it is nearly so endless to plug in all these varied components and then to make sense of that data. But in a sense, it's merely your data hub for how your business is doing. And if you're using Excel, which I love, or Google Sheets or any of these things, but as your CRM and you're not using automation, there's simply no scale that you're able to reach if you want to build a business that is beyond maybe 10 prospects juggled at a time and, a few handful of clients at a time. And so I just don't think that there's a lot of businesses out there, unless you're some super senior coach that is denying more clients than you are prospecting, that you can navigate the world without a CRM. And so I would say taking a moment to pause and build something like this may take a month, but the insight around the data that you can get from it in the sales pipeline, the sales process that you can develop for yourself, that of course you'll continue to iterate and refine, will be invaluable. It's like writing a business plan a little bit, right? Because writing your business plan in and of itself is not that particularly valuable once you're done writing it. But the process of writing it is incredibly insightful, and it pushes you to understand your market and your customer and your approach and your product market fit more than anything. And one side note, I would definitely recommend a business model canvas over a business plan any day. But the CRM is really your hub, and it should be connected to every social media platform that you have, understanding what your trends are there. It should be communicating the outbound outreach in a systematized approach with dynamic emails and even text messages. It should be nurturing and even informing people. You should have, I'm sure, and most businesses have multiple different types of segmentation. That CRM is going to do that. How you approach and communicate to different types of your customers, the way that they want to be communicated to around what's important to them, can all be done in a CRM, and it allows you to be it is a force multiplier in your business. And I would really recommend that anybody take the time, especially right, in the holiday season when things are a little bit slower, depending on your business. If you're a DTC business, most likely all the stuff that you've done and are ready for the holiday season is done. If not, then you're playing catch up. And, if this is a coaching business, this is a great time to pause and build the infrastructure that allows you to scale and be successful. So I hope that answers it, but that investment, it's paramount.
No, Drew, I'll tell you what, hearing you say words like infrastructure, I know that a lot of listeners are going to be feeling the heat from today's episode because it's for sure already a clear takeaway that is, I mean, that in and of itself shows why you have a job, so to speak, and why you are so valuable to companies, because that infrastructure is lacking in so many different companies. And it's fun for me to actually, one other thing I want to interject there, because I think it's so important, is that you really stress the importance for us, Drew, of not only setting that CRM up, but dedicating our time to it to actually get it set up and then utilize it. Whereas a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners will be saying, well, Drew, I've got people to call. I've got things to do. I've got day-to-day operations. It reminds me, I'm going to both botch who said it, and I'm also going to botch the quote. I'm going to attribute it to Abraham Lincoln. And I think the quote is something along the lines of, if you gave me 7 hours to chop down a tree, I'm going to spend 5 hours sharpening my axe. And I think that that's so important, is a lot of us want to ready, fire, aim. But the reality is, obviously, we need to take those steps. And that's why I'm so appreciative of you coming on here and sharing this infrastructural stuff with us, because we do skip this stuff when it comes to revenue, when it comes to sales and marketing and growth. So I love hearing your perspective on it, and particularly because I want to go a little bit deeper into your experience in the CPG world. Obviously, that is a very unique world. And from my perspective, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's a world that they are at the cutting edge of revenue strategies, marketing, sales, all of those, because they have to be. It's very cutthroat. There's so many different products out there. Talk to us from your vantage point about what makes the CPG industry unique. What can we all borrow from it? And I'd love for you to hear, or for you to talk about, what are the unique powers of CPG companies and the systems that they've built?
Sure. I mean, I could talk about CPG, consumer packaged goods, businesses in the industry itself all day. It lights me up. I think that, the reason that Botanical was founded is to support sustainably driven, mission driven, environmentally friendly consumer packaged goods businesses win. I really firmly believe that that sector has to have mission driven businesses win in order against legacy brands that don't care about their impact in the world and the pollution that they leave behind. They must win in order for our planet to be in a healthier and cleaner state than it is now. So consumer packaged goods brands are constantly under a tremendous amount of pressure, because at the end of the day, most of the time they are within a commodity-based business, whether it be shoes or beverages or, granola companies, understanding and telling their story uniquely and positioning it across like pricing and packaging and where their placement is. It is a very tough business to be in. And I love helping and fostering those businesses because their founders are always so passionate about the products that they put out and the story behind them. And so I think the CPG business and industry is particularly challenging, and they, as a result, they have to be focused on force multipliers. Typically the good itself, the cost of goods is a significant portion of what their balance sheet is made up of, and managing their overhead is an incredible challenge versus like SaaS, which is just infinite on the upside once you have that all set up, and the sales are going. So I think that CPG businesses, more than anything, need to truly understand what that feedback loop is between the push-pull of marketing and sales, right? You're pushing it out, you're pulling it in. How do you build that feedback loop consistently? And CPG businesses have to focus on force multipliers. And that means understanding their CRM, investing in the development of their team, investing in new platforms such as ChatGPT and the OpenAI resources that have become readily available for $20 a month. So I think that that leaders within the CPG industry really need to look at how did they individually and their team become force multipliers for their business's success.
Yeah, I want to go a little bit deeper there because I know that now we're really touching on the crux of what you and Botanical stand for, which is at the heart of it is the heart, is that mission driven business. And Drew, a lot of people, I feel like along the way somewhere, maybe it's the industry, maybe it's the competitiveness that's out there, how many products and choices we all have as consumers, that we trick ourselves into believing, nobody cares about my business or my mission that they care about. Because when we go on Amazon, what do? We look at the reviews, we look at how many reviews there are, and we just make our selection based on that. For me, it's whatever I can get same day shipping on because I'm impatient. We always discount as consumers, which in turn I think can disillusion us as business owners, that notion of mission driven. Whereas talk to any mission driven buyers. For example, me, I'm part of the Tesla cult where we all see the mission that Elon Musk is on. For me, it resonates as an entrepreneur. It resonates as I'm the son of an immigrant who came to the United States. There's so many parts of Elon Musk's vision of business and mission in the way that he operates with regards to efficiencies, disrupting industries so much that I believe in that. Drew, I feel like obviously I'm preaching to the choir here, but I'd love for you to speak to the listeners and tell them the importance of that mission driven. Why does that matter? Why is it those types of businesses that, one, you love working with, and two, that you believe are the ones that can really be elevated and helped when it comes to growth, revenue, sales, marketing? What is it about that mission-driven element to business?
I think the biggest component of the mission-driven business is the storytelling. People buy stories. And I know that this sounds like a giant platitude that you've heard a lot of different ways from a lot of different quotes, but at the end of the day, like whether it be Apple, whether it be Tesla, you think of the big brands around us, even Trader Joe's. I mean, I don't really like Trader Joe's as a grocery store, and I'm probably one of the few people in all of California that don't like it, but it has a great story. It has an incredible brand, and people buy stories, and that's why brands matter. The only reason a brand matters versus another commodity versus a white label is that there is a story behind it, and there's a trust and association with either with quality, with the mission, with some component. And that's what a brand is. And so that storytelling has to be alive, both within the marketing and the sales and the customer service component of their approach. I think a lot of people are allergic to marketing agencies for the right reason. I think a lot of marketing agencies get hired to build pretty decks and mood boards, and they don't execute on really what is needed with a sense of urgency that the founders have hired them to do. That's why I really avoid trying to use both the word consultancy and agency when I talk about Botanical. I just do not do it, because there is such a hangover associated with agency or consultancy. But there is value in investing in either internally or externally someone that is going to support you elevate your storytelling to ensure that it is conveyed both like how your brand shows up, the way it's positioned, the way that your sales team positions it, the way that your distributor sales team positions it. Whoever touches your brand, they need to have a unifying story that is distilled and distinct, and ensuring that that is conveyed across your packaging, across your sales materials, across your customer service components, across your website. All of those things are force multipliers for telling your story and standing out. And that's the whole point, right? Like, of having a brand is standing out and communicating your mission now more than ever. And I think continuously will continue to grow in value, is ensuring that people understand around what you stand for. And you will alienate people, and that's okay. Not everyone needs to be your customer, but if everyone's your customer, no one's your customer. It's just absolutely the truth. You certainly are most likely not building a product or a service that stands out if it is for everybody. So being very granular around who you're speaking to and learning what's important to them and speaking to that, and ideally, hopefully it's authentically who you are and what you stand for, is of utmost importance. And you can find partners, whether it be me or online, that can help you elevate that story and make sure that it's a through line across how you approach your business and the brand itself.
Boom. That right there. I want to call it out for listeners. Go back and listen to Drew's answer to that question again, because that speaks so much to the alignment. That's the word that is just speaking through to me, Drew, as you talk about these things, is alignment. And actually, you're making my job really easy here today, because I'm just going to straight up read from your website for listeners, because obviously I can see your website. They're probably on the go. But your website says, look, if you're at the helm of a sustainable CPG business, juggling between seed funding and shooting for that $25 million revenue mark, we're talking to you. We get it. That dance between sales and marketing isn't a waltz. And so where you say that Botanical slides in is we don't just slap together a growth plan. We craft a symphony, one where product champs, marketing wizards, and sales pros play in harmony. The outcome from that is real measurable growth. Drew, this is what I think is at the crux of today's episode, and I know it's going to be a takeaway for me and so many listeners, is that harmony that you paint the picture for on your website, is that alignment. And I think what the real story is behind that is when we talk about revenue as entrepreneurs, as business owners, we have a tendency of just looking at that sales. But I think what a lot of us are going to take away from you is you so consistently talk about the things that lead to revenue and the alignment that is there. Talk more to that point, because I just feel like there's so much brilliance inside of you in the way that you view revenue. It's so different from the way revenue is traditionally talked about. Where is it that your mind goes? Because now we're talking about brand, we're talking about the product, we're talking about all these elements. Where's revenue start? How do we get a grasp on it so that they all do dance in harmony?
It's a great question. You know, I think I'm a systems guy at the end of the day. Like, I really like looking at what are the holistic inputs that people that have at their disposal around the business that they are structuring to pull in reliable revenue. And that means reinventing a lot of times, like, probably what they've already created. I think that a lot of people that are on a rocket ship are not talking to people like me. They are already managing a lot of like the growth that they're handling. You know, where I come in is, you know, when people who are growing slowly and incrementally, who are stagnant, or just trying to like really assess, you know, how do I kind of grow to the next level? And I think that, like, I'm not trying to like toot my own horn here, but like what I tried to convey specifically in the paragraph that you read is who we work with, and therefore like who we don't work with. Like I define by revenue size, like company size, who we work with, that we work with mission-driven businesses in the industry, the CPG world. And that allows people hopefully to see, like, if that speaks to them, we're there to help them. And if it doesn't speak to them, most likely we may not be a good fit. And so I think from a revenue systems perspective, I think finding as many ways that you can build revenue that stack instead of linearly, but rhythmically. So what is your marketing approach? Is that consistent? You know, is your sales approach, is that consistent? Look at every one of those feedback loops. And I think that a lot of times people get enticed, business owners get enticed. And I certainly get these emails all the time by people reaching out to me around silver bullets, and that they can come in and, you know, scale their business or provide them leads or give them the customers that they need instantaneously. And the truth is they do not exist. It's sexy to hear about like a relief to the pain point that you have. But the truth is like that does not exist. You can get leads for sure, but if you don't know how to build that in-house sustainably for yourself, if someone's feeding you a fish, I guarantee you long term that revenue channel is like most likely not going to be a good partner, especially in the age of like some of the platforms like Apollo and Instantly There are a lot of people providing silver bullets for what seems to be transactional opportunities that look symbiotic. And I think that there's simply not. And so to myself, I believe that like you've got to look and build a platform for your business that is holistic. It's around both your sales approach, it's around your marketing approach, and how do you handle things from a customer service approach when they need to be handled. And I think that it takes a little bit of infrastructure and it takes a little bit of organization. And I would also throw in because I'm such a firm believer in the Tim Ferriss, Sam Corco's like get yourself a virtual assistant and help you stay organized and focused around all these things, because you again don't most likely have the time, and so that's why you get so attracted to the silver bullets out there that can provide you immediate leads and business and all that.
Yeah, Drew, gosh, I'll tell you what, so many nuggets of wisdom just in that one answer from you, but it really does illustrate how differently you view this stuff, because I don't think there's many or any people out there painting the picture of revenue and growth as a symphony like you just did for us right there. And I also, if you're not going to toot your own horn, Drew, then I'm going to toot your horn for you, because in a second, we're going to point listeners to your website, because listeners, I'm going to say this, Drew won't humble brag for himself, so I'm going to be the one. There are so many tangible and strategic business lessons that you can learn just through the lens of looking at the way that Drew does business with his company, Botanical. Because when you go to his website, which we're going to drop his website links in just a second, obviously they're in the show notes as well, but you're going to see Drew very clearly has outlined, hey, here's who I serve. Not only here's who I serve, but here's how I serve them. Botanical offers different services and packages, such as their Eco Starter Launchpad. They spell out, hey, if you're in your first round of funding, here's the roadmap for you. Here's what you need. If you're in the Green Growth Accelerator, here's who that's for. Here's the roadmap to success there. And then the Pursuit to $25 million blueprint. These are things that Drew has intentionally sat down and said, hey, these are the people we serve. Here's exactly the roadmap to success, understanding where they are and where they want to be. So a lot to learn there. We're going to drop those links in just a second. But before we do, I'm going to squeeze some final genius out of you, Drew. And that is always the most challenging part of the episode for my guests. I get to ask you, what's the one takeaway? What's the one strategy or piece of advice that you hope listeners get from today's episode as they go about growing their own businesses, whether they're in CPG or anything else? With your revenue hat on as a CRO, what's something that everyone should take away from our conversation here today?
I would say that probably the biggest takeaway is a little bit about mindset. I think a lot of people, and myself included historically, what allowed me to transition into Botanical being the success that it is a transition from playing not to lose to playing to win. And I think that means really on a day-to-day perspective, investing in your business, working on your business, and ensuring that you're playing offense. I think a lot of people particularly are spending a tremendous amount of time protecting from the downside. And I think that true growth comes from focusing on the upside. And those small things can be, and again, I'll mention it again, the virtual assistant, people get so hesitant when I talk about this, but we're talking about like an $800 a month investment that's month to month that you can do to try it out. And if that does not claw back 20 hours of your time, then you should absolutely message me and I'll give you some async videos around like maybe what you're doing or what you're not doing, but correctly. But you should be focusing really on like, how can I massively grow my business versus like, how can I cut costs, or where should I save, or how can I rearrange the table to ensure that like I can squeeze out another 5%. You cannot build, in my opinion, massive upside if you're just focusing on the downside. And so I really recommend people pause and reflect around like what actions they've been taking, what has been working, what hasn't been working, and focus on maybe for the next year, for 2024, how can they play a different style of game? And I think it's a bit about mindset more than anything.
Holy cow, Drew, I've asked so many entrepreneurs that question, but yours is amongst my favorite of answers because I think it is not only profound, but I think it's so important to hear. I relate it to, obviously, amongst the millennial generation. It's a bit of a meme in the personal finance world where people say, cut out that monthly Netflix subscription. And there's all those memes that say, I bought a $2.8 million house because I stopped paying $10 a month for Netflix. And you're right. So many people are focused on those downside things, cutting those corners, saving. In England, they've got a great phrase of penny wise, pound foolish. They watch those pennies, they avoid those dollars. So yeah, I think that's really, really good advice. Obviously, I've tooted your horn. Listeners are going to want to check out your work to pick up all those lessons from you. And I love the fact that you pointed out to them, yes, if you're doing something wrong, reach out to me personally. So Drew, drop those links on us. Where the heck should listeners go to find more about you, Botanical, and all the great work that you're doing?
I would say just, go to our website. You can find me on LinkedIn underneath my name, Drew Cesario. I'm a pretty accessible guy. And, really those are the two channels that I'm focusing on and owning. I think a lot of people try and own every single channel. But that's where I portion my time to support, inbound questions. And, if people, your listeners are looking for a little bit of support, the way that I respond best is just an async video. Honestly, someone should just open up Loom and ask their questions and shoot it over to me, and I'll watch it at 2.5 speed. I'll understand it and send it back to you in the same portion. So save a little bit of your time. And I can actually field some of the insight that, you're looking for. I think the little bit of time savers, a little bit of hacks like that are able to, give people what they're really particularly looking for, and instead of writing out some long paragraph questions, so that I have to do the same. So that hopefully I can be available as a resource to anyone that feels like they're stuck and they're looking to rearrange some things. I also spend a tremendous amount of time building on the Botanical website an area called resources. It's a coded document with everything from growth mindset, Carol Dweck's work, around SWOT analysis, gap analysis, templates, a tremendous amount of templates that are there, including even how to get started with ChatGPT and, prompt engineering, so that people can be their own force multipliers. Because at the end of the day, whether it be a business engagement or anything, I come in to work my way out of a job, and I want to feed as many people this resources necessary, teach them how to fish, so that they can go on and deliver, the mission-driven businesses and support, how they want to see and shape the world. So I appreciate all the time, the insightful and challenging questions, Brian.
Heck yes, that is awesome. Drew, you are a shining example that you practice what you preach right here until the very end, even with your systematized questions. You know what? No one's ever actually directly called that out, but you're right. How often do we email a stranger that we heard on a podcast or we've seen a YouTube video or a book author, and we have to craft this perfect response? I'm so much more like you, where it's just hit record on a Loom video, spit it out. We both save each other time, and you'll also get what you really want. I think it's way more strategic that way. So I love that. Listeners, you already know the drill. Find those links to the Botanical website down below in the show notes, wherever it is that you're tuning in. Or if you're on the go and you just want me to say it to you, it's Botanical GRP. So Botanical Group, botanicalgrp.com. Head straight to Drew's website. We're also linking to his LinkedIn down below in the show notes. So don't be shy. I know we've all learned a lot today. We've got some homework. Drew, thank you so much for dropping all of this knowledge with us here today on the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast.
Thank you, Brian.